All right, back again as we have an epic tag team match here. When we talk about classic wrestling and educating people on, the ones who paved the way for all of us here, all of the ones who came after these two teams right here you're about to meet are the embodiment of what icons are and what legendary statuses are.
The following contest is a tag team match scheduled for one fall on the way to the ring at a combined weight of 624 pounds. Demolition!
So, Axe and Smash Demolition, two of the probably toughest human beings back alive in the 80s, one of the most premier tag teams of all time. And a lot of people today have no idea exactly how influential this particular team was. And when you talk about teams today like the New Day or all these other teams that held titles for X amount of days, Demolition did that before people started counting how long someone held titles for. Demolition held the WWF at the time tag team titles for close to 4 years without losing them, and that is unheard of today. A lot of people today, modern times, predict Roman Reigns' title reign to be one of the largest. That too is not as impressive if you really look at the history. And of course,
At a combined weight of 516 pounds.
these two,
Bret the Hitman Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, the Hart Foundation.
when you talk about tag team wrestlers, and I know a lot of people may have heard that Bret Hart was a successful tag team wrestler, part of course, this very team, the Hart Foundation, teaming up with his real-life brother-in-law, Jim the Anvil Neidhart. And when you talk about influential families in pro wrestling, you have to talk about the Harts. Bret, of course, is one of many brothers in the Hart family. Of course, Hart's training out of Calgary in Alberta, Canada, back in the day. Trained by their dad, the legendary Stu Hart, in the famed dungeon, which is primarily the basement of their house in Calgary, for those people who wondered. Of course, Axe and Smash Demolition were not from Calgary. They were, in fact, two of the toughest, roughest tag teams, in part coming from the real embodiment of the mean streets of the darkest areas of the United States. Both former doormen, which were bodyguards for nightclubs and so forth, for transitioning into pro wrestling. Of course, Barry Darsow, better known as Smash here, has had many different careers as multiple roles, as his Axe, his tag team partner. And for the record, yes, they are, primarily some people associate them with their longtime manager or thorn in his side, Mr. Fuji, or as Smash once called him, Fuge the Stooge. And of course, they did try to make them a faction, adding Crush, the late great Bryan Adams, not the singer. And one of the things about Demolition, as you're seeing, was that they were a smash mouth tag team. They were in your face, and this is what they did. Tags in and out, controlling the opponent. Of course, the Hart Foundation you didn't see Barry Darsow go to the ropes very often. Look at that, confidence dropping an elbow to the heart of Bret the Hitman Hart, no pun intended. As I mentioned, Bret is just one member of the famed Hart family. As I mentioned, his tag team partner here, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, is his brother-in-law, married to one of his many sisters as well. Of course, other family members you may also know, perhaps the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, another brother-in-law, as well as Look at this nerve hold put on by Smash. Not only the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith, but also the great Owen Hart as well, his younger brother, Owen. But also, you may not know, there are other Harts as well who are very prominent in the wrestling world, running their father's Calgary Stampede Wrestling. As I mentioned earlier, Calgary also had territories in general, much like the US back in the day, as Bret Hart firing back against Smash. I gotta say, Bret was taking quite a bit of punishment there, and one of the things that a lot of people quick to forget about Bret Hart is his endurance and his ability to just kind of keep going, and his technical aspects of pro wrestling. He was just as tough as anybody else, known to be a little stiff or snug in the ring, and that's how his dad trained him. And back in the day, that's kind of what they did. As here we see that double team, and again, this is what tag team wrestling was: is Jim Neidhart, the power of the team, and Bret Hart, the technical aspect of the team. That's one of the continuity things that wrestling was, especially in tag team. Here comes Axe coming back in, and these two powerhouses locking up. Look at Axe just easily just grabs Jim Neidhart. Tries to go for that suplex, and he gets him up. That's not an easy task, folks. Jim Neidhart also played some football as well for some people. You want to know that aspect as well, of how, you know, athletes really transition to pro wrestling quite a bit. Even today, there's a lot of influence in there. As Axe try to take control of Anvil. Anvil's is very, very aware of the ring. Look at that power. Of course, you guys might know Jim Neidhart's his younger daughter, or his daughter, I should say, Natalia, who is currently on the WWE roster. She is kind of the heart on the roster right now, I believe. Married to the great Tyson Kidd, if you guys remember him. Of course, when you talk about the Hart Dynasty, that was a faction that didn't seem to go anywhere. You had the combination of, you know, the son of this, you know, nice pile driver there by Axe, by the way. But you had the continuity of Tyson Kidd, who was trained in Calgary, as well as the son of the British Bulldog and the daughter of Jim Neidhart. Axe dropping an elbow and picking up the win against the Hart Foundation here. Very impressive matchup here. And what you saw is spot on how these two teams are, what they're known for, and how they hold themselves. And that right there, folks, if anybody who's training in tag team wrestling, that right there is how you tell stories in the ring, and how you don't need to do. Notice how many times they went to the ropes and did flippy things and took unnecessary risks. There wasn't a lot. And a lot of it isn't necessary, as you saw, to tell a story and get in there. And that was an incredible matchup for these two teams. Axe and Smash picking up the win. And now you kind of understand just why Demolition was as dominant as they were. 4 years tag team champions. All right, folks, stick around for more information.